Welcome to Cableconn. We are a custom cable manufacturer that serves a wide range of companies in different fields, including Inogen for medicine, Northrop Grumman for military, and companies such as Qualcomm and Viasat for telecom. Here at Cableconn, our values define us and our products. We value our industry knowledge and experience, our agility, and our collaborative innovation. Our quality policy states that Cableconn meets or exceeds customer requirements by providing the best value in quality, cost, delivery, and customer service. A copy of this policy is located in the break room, the sales office, and engineering. For auditing reasons, you may be asked to explain this policy or know where one copy of it is located. Now let's begin this training with the clocking in process. First, I will explain the scanning and clocking in process. When you arrive to work, the first step is clocking into plant. This is the most important step because this is what constitutes as the hours you are working at the end of the pay period. You do this by scanning clock into plant, and then either scanning your employee number on your badge or typing in the number on a keypad of the scanner. Next, you will arrive to your cell or workstation and pick up your traveler. The main traveler is a packet of documents that list the operations needed for a particular job. The three operations you'll be performing today for training here include heat shrink, labeling, and stuffing, which will be explained later in the video. Using the traveler, you will clock into your job. This is a confusing process at first, so we suggest you take notes. After locating your nearest scanner, you will first scan Clock into Job, the barcode for which is located beneath the scanner. Then, in the keypad or by scanning your employee badge, put in your employee number. Next, you will scan the job number, which is the barcode located at the top of the traveler. Then select Direct or Regular for the labor type prompt, which is located beneath the scanner. Lastly, you will select which operation you are doing from the traveler. This may be heat shrink, labeling, or stuffing. We know this process is confusing at first, so don't worry if you don't get the hang of it. After finishing your job, or you are asked by a lead to move to a different job, you will clock out of your job. The process for this is similar to clocking into a job. First, you will select Clock Off Job, located beneath the scanner. And then, when the scanner prompts you to put in the quantity of work done, simply scan Zero Quantity, which is located beneath the scanner. You will almost always scan zero quantity unless your lead tells you otherwise. Then, the scanner will ask if rework is necessary for this job. Unless told otherwise, you will scan No. The scanner will finally ask you if you set up the job. The answer for this, unless otherwise told, is also no. There are other occasions on which you must clock out. When going on break, you must clock out of only your job. If you are taking your lunch, you will clock out of both your job and the plant. Pause the video here to review the clocking in process. The first of three common operations you will be performing here at Cableconn is stuffing. Stuffing is the process of inserting crimped wires into a connector or housing. You will know when you have completely stuffed the wire into the connector when you hear or feel a small click noise. If you are uncertain, pull on the wire to see if it comes free. If it does, try again until you sense the click. When stuffing, you must also be gentle with the wires you are handling in order to not tweak them. This is why it is important to stuff with the pads of your thumb and pointer finger, opposed to the tips of these fingers. The key of the contact must align with the key of the housing. If the contact doesn't seat in the housing, it is possible the contact has been put in the wrong way. Here I am demonstrating the poke and pull method. where after inserting crimped wires into the housing, I simultaneously pull back on the wire to make sure the wire is secured in the housing. You can see the wires are secured here because the keys of the contacts are gripping the gates of the housing. Here are some examples of good stuffing workmanship. This example is a model of good workmanship because all wires have not been tweaked or sharply bent. Also, all wires are going to their correct housing positions. And all contacts have been seated properly. Conversely, in my example, some wires look a little tweaked. And all wires seem to be going to the wrong pin, as they are not connected one-to-one. But all contacts have been seated properly. The second of the most common operations done here at Cableconn is heat shrink. Heat shrink is the material used to insulate and grip wires with other elements wrapping around the wire. It is commonly used with expando sleeving, which protects wires from abrasion and other damage. You will be using a heat gun to shrink the heat shrink. This allows the heat shrink to contract around the wire and its sleeving. For these purposes, the gun must be set to number 4 or 5 on the back. Do not use a digital heat gun unless instructed to by a lead. After heating the heat shrink, make sure that it shrinks enough that it does not move when you attempt to slide it. Also, be sure to heat only the heat shrink itself to prevent burning the expando, cable jacket, or wire insulation. Some heat gun tips are meant for different sizes of cables and applications, so make sure you are using the appropriate one for the size of the cable you are applying the heat shrink. In this drawing, the ends of the cable assemblies are drawn being held together by heat shrink. 50% of the heat shrink is over the wires that come out of the end, and 50% of the heat shrink covers the cable. Some of the drawings also refer to distances between objects located on the cable. These are either given in inches or decimal inches. Here are some examples of good heat shrink workmanship. In this example, the sample follows the spacing instructions on the drawing. It is heated enough that they are firmly gripping the wires of the cable, and they both illustrate the 50-50 heat shrink placement method. In this example of poor heat shrink workmanship, the quality is made apparent by the inconsistent spacing of the shrinks, the fact that the shrinks easily slide when pushed, and the heat shrink itself does not exhibit the 50-50 placement method at the breakout. The third of the most common operations done at Cableconn is labeling. Labeling, here, is the process of adhering markers on the harness for customers to identify the assembly and/or mark where each individual connection is located. For training purposes, you will practice labeling on 3 different surfaces: twisted, bundled, and jacketed wires. When labeling, make sure there are no foreign objects, otherwise known as FO, on the surface of the cable you are labeling, and make sure the label does not fold past or over itself. A good label job must be readable over the contours of the cable and be straight. Here are some examples of good labeling workmanship. In this example, this is clearly good labeling workmanship because all subsequent labels line up. Each are clean after the wrapping is finished, and the edges of the adhesive do not overlap the label. In this poor example of labeling workmanship, words are warped and do not line up with subsequent labels. The job itself is somewhat dirty, which makes the label less readable. And lastly, the adhesive and label overlap each other or exhibit tails. Now that you know what your work will entail, we would like you to be made aware of some other expectations we have of you. We ask that you do not use your phone at all while at work, except while you are on break or lunch in the break room or outside the building. We also ask that while you are on the clock, that you communicate in English to ensure safety and mutual understanding between you and your coworkers. Lastly, we ask if you have any questions about the work you are doing, that you direct them to your lead as opposed to your peers. Thank you for your time.